Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Public comment periods are limited to 3 minutes per person, and the total amount of time for public comment is 15 minutes. Persons participating by way of video conference or teleconference on through their audio is muted at all times except when the board chair announces public comment periods. At those designated times, members of the public wishing to speak shall enable their audio and state their name for the record. When multiple members of the public wish to speak, the clerk will determine the order of speakers and announce their names accordingly. To ensure proper conduct, the board reserves the right to mute the audio and video of any member of the public, violating generally accepted principles and decorum of official public meetings. There are no in-person or virtual comments.
Okay. Consent items, approval of consent items.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. Rolling on. Discussion items. Item 5, consider adopting a resolution number 2024-03 approving the agreement between the Yuba County Water Agency. Oh, sorry, I went too far. I didn't. My iPad's going. That's on me, okay. Water Agency Ingersoll Timber Enterprises concerning the agency's purchase of real property adjoining Colgate Powerhouse, Yuba River, authorizing general fund budget increase for the agreement purchase amount of $1,650,000. And Willie's going to present this virtually.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. This is seeking board approval for to purchase 3 parcels of land from Ingersoll Timber downstream of the Colgate Powerhouse, and 2 for a budget adjustment to increase our budget to accommodate the purchase. The primary purpose of purchasing this property is to ensure that the agency continues to maintain access to both Colgate Powerhouse and Lake Francis Dam. Last summer, the Ingersoll Corporation approached us about our interest in purchasing this property, and we agreed it was necessary for our continued operations. We have a purchase agreement all drafted up and approved, and we're just seeking your approval to move forward with the transaction.
Thank you. Any comments from the directors? Questions?
Move to approve. I'll second.
Is there any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Willie. Okay, item 6. Consider staff's recommendation to limit the Community Impact Grant and Loan Program's March 2024 application window to only the following: Bill Shaw Rescue Equipment and Training Grants, applications that seek to leverage state and federal grant funding where the applicant deadline is on or before September 1st, 2024, cash flow only loans as a result of an eligibility entitlement entity waiting reimbursement for a grant award for the state or federal government, and 4, emergency funding due to catastrophic events that threaten public safety. Terry and Jim both are going to present this?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll turn to Jim if he has anything at the end, and I'll talk really fast because maybe we'll have a record-setting short meeting today. If you recall, at the December 19th board meeting, you awarded about $35 million worth of grants investing in the community, in the Yuba County community. About 34 million of that 35 million were for infrastructure grants. So solidly in our mission areas of flood risk reduction and water supply. All those applications came in during the September grant window. So just to refresh your memory on our grants program, the way it stands right now is that we have 2 grant windows every year, according to the current policy, in March and in September. And we have a budget of $10 million a year. So you gave out 35 million in December. And I just want to stop for a minute before I make my ask and say, congratulations. And it is truly remarkable what the board has done with this grant program. We started this grant program that we have now in March of 2021. So through December 2024, we had hoped to give out $40 million, 4 years, $40 million in grants. The actual figures through the end of last year were $52.4 million in grants awarded, $34.2 million in grants to Yuba County, primarily for the local share to leverage a lot more money for complete streets and gutters in West Linda and Olivehurst and other projects that they're working on, and $57.3 million in loans, most of which is paid back. So it's a bit more than the 40 million total for those 4 years. But I think it's an amazing accomplishment. And you, our board of Yuba Water, are doing some pretty amazing things in the county. So thank you. With that, though, being a little over the $40 million and such a big award of $35 million in December, we had proposed, if you recall, and we talked with the POD committee, the Project Operations and Development Committee, about really, now that it's been 4 years, let's really take a look at that grants policy and let's update it. And what we were proposing is, instead of one big bucket where all of the grant applications come in, we really separate that out into an infrastructure bucket, for lack of a better word, and a community investment or community impact bucket, just so that you're not seeing, or it's hard to compare a grant for $50,000 with a grant for $5 million. And so if we separate those out, we'd be able to better budget for those two different things, and be more transparent with the grant applicants and the public. So so you gave us direction in December to go ahead and update that. And so staff is in the midst of doing that, not only updating the grant policy and how the program works, but also kind of reconciling the budget. You know, what does that look like going forward? So what we're asking today is, since we're still in the middle of updating that, and since you just gave out $35 million, not even 2 months ago, that we limit the March window. After all, most of those $34 million in infrastructure grants, they haven't even gotten started yet, right? So we would just ask to limit the March window to Bill Shaw grants. Now, I just want to comment that Director Vasquez brought the idea up to increase the amount of a Bill Shaw grant from $10,000 to $20,000. That's still, we're working on the numbers and talking with the applicants to find out how that will impact them. And so we're suggesting that we just leave it at $10,000 for right now, open the March window to the Bill Shaw grants. And then we open them to things that, frankly, we leave open all year long when they're needed. But if there are local match grants, like the county, the local match for, that big giant grants that they got for Olivehurst and West Linda, if they know of one now and the deadline for that grant application is before September, sure, go ahead and apply for the grant. Likewise, for cash flow loans, if you recall, you have to put out the money. An organization has to put out the money first and then gets reimbursed from the state. And sometimes that's kind of difficult. Camptonville, CFD, asked for a cash flow loan. And then when they get the reimbursement, they pay us right back. So if anybody needed something like that, or for an emergency, if there's damage from these atmospheric rivers or the high wind events that we've been having, or, anything happens, that they could apply during this window, or frankly, anytime that it happens. So In summary, I wanted to bring this to you, first of all, to get your approval to limit the grants window in March, basically to the Bill Shaw grants. And then secondly, I wanted to be really public about it so that all of the potential grant applicants know what's happening before we just close the window to them. So that's what we're asking for today.
Can I ask a question? The
Chair.
county forego taxes and forego the income in the last 50 or the first 50 years of the agency. And part of our mission was to give back to the agent or the agency to give back to the residents. I'm concerned that when you're trying to limit it because of some grants last year, that we might be getting away from our mission. And I think our mission should be to make Yuba County a better place. And I don't want to make sure that, or I would like to make sure that what you're proposing is not get in that way.
Appreciate you bringing that up. I just want to point out that all of our grant program managers, so we have somebody managing the flood risk reduction projects, we have somebody managing the water supply projects, we have somebody managing the watershed health projects, are in really close contact with all of those entities, including the county. And so kind of we know when things are coming, and there are no grant opportunities right now that we know about that they need to leverage a bigger grant, which is what we want, right? We want to pay the local share so that we get a whole lot more money from the state or the feds. And if something did come up that was more urgent or that needed to get started on right away, we would certainly bring it to you.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
Charlie, I think you need to read the act again and kind of understand that it's not to the people of Yuba County that the money goes to. It's to the water agency, given the parameters that they established when they made the act. So you can't give it directly back to the, all you're doing is creating a problem, is jeopardizing the dam and the powerhouse to the state. State giveth and the state taketh away. And I think that unless you back off a little bit, you're going to create a lot more problems because they're about $100 billion upside down. So I would suggest you read that act again.
And especially the last sentence of the mission says the benefit of Yuba County. I don't want to get into debate about who owns the dam. The residents of Yuba County elect us as the board to follow the agency act.
Again, I think you should look at the act a little closer, and our legal agency, our lawyers would really like to explain it to you a little more in the depth, because I don't.
This is not the time for the debate.
Yeah.
But you've always been a supporter of watching our reserves. If they get too upside down, that the state might take our reserves. That's why I'm suggesting that we follow the act, but put the money out is expeditiously and not slow it down so our reserves get any larger than they are right now.
So if I could just comment on both of the points. First of all, one of the reason that we want to have a really solid grants policy that we follow is to ensure that we are spending the money investing in grants in areas that do fall within the agency act, and that we aren't exposing the water agency to undue criticism because we're spending in areas that we shouldn't. In response to it's for the people of Yuba County, yes, absolutely. And Charlie, I don't think that just limiting the window in March is really going to cut off any opportunities for anybody. If there's anything out there, we will be working with folks and we would bring it to the board separately.
That's what I wanted to hear. is that if some entity comes up with something not within that 1 month that sees something, they have the ability to work with the agency and bring it forward.
Right. Often what happens for that window is, especially for the community impact grant, let's say on the education programs, there's organizations out there that actually develop programs so that they can apply for a grant. I mean, we would be the funder of that program. And all we're saying is, hey, you've got a little more time to develop that before you apply for it, because we just want to get things a little bit more organized here.
However, in the event that, let's just say Hallwood Irrigation was getting some type of a grant and they need a local cross share and it expired, or it had to be, the decision had to be made before September, that one would be brought to the board separately, like in
Exactly.
March or whatever. So it really wouldn't preclude, and it's not changing anything we're doing. It's just basically putting it all into the September meeting and a little more time for the committees to review. But in the event that it needs to happen sooner, we're going to bring them individually sooner.
Exactly. Great summary. Yes.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Through the chair.
Terry, thank you very much for working very hard on making it easy. But tell staff, thank you for designing a program that is relatively stable for us to work with, and because it hasn't been done before anywhere.
Through the chair. So what I'm hearing is, it sounds like it's a good idea to just take another look at our grant, or this community impact grant policy, and separating out the infrastructure is kind of what you're saying, because it seems like it's kind of gotten away from us a little bit here. When I think of community impact grants, I'm thinking of relatively smaller things, you know, keeping the pool going, et cetera, community. So I think it's a good idea to separate this and maybe even have separate windows. I don't know, but I think that a good discussion is worthwhile.
Great. Thank you. That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Do you have any?
I do. So I guess I'm slightly confused. We're not going to be slowing down or stopping any grants that are currently that you see on the horizon. So
Correct.
if there's no activity on the horizon, what is the value of reducing this? It's going to streamline the process because it's going to be once a year instead of twice a year. And so that's going to create a lot more staff flexibility, or what's the advantage of reducing it? Because I think, seconding what Charlie said, I want to see as much help to the community as possible. And so I don't know why we'd want to reduce the window.
We're just trying to limit the window, not completely close it, but limit the window in March. Again, so that we can have these discussions and get out ahead of it. So we don't do things like just approve grants and get outside of our mission areas and things like that. It's time to take a look at it. And it's not quite done, honestly. If there is, we just awarded $35 million. And so if there are, and I'm sure as a result of today's discussion, if there are any things out there like Hallwood Irrigation sees that there's a deadline and needs to come and ask for it, okay. And maybe that's the way we should work anyway. I mean, that's what we're trying to figure out here. Is it better to have a rolling request period, or is it better to have one request period? We just need to get our arms around it and get a little more organized for you.
So I'm sorry, if I can, just a continuation. So for instance, we recently had some rain, and so we have some localized storm flooding in lots of areas. And so that reminds me, oh yes, we need stormwater drainage in all of Hearst in more extensively than we already have. And I assume that some of the other areas, likewise, I saw lots of road closures where we had problems in other places. This is going to preclude the county from applying for some sort of help in that situation until September?
No, not at all.
Okay.
As I said, if there are any grants that they can leverage, much like they did when they applied for the $48 million that's going into all of Hearst.
As opposed
stormwater drainage.
Right, as opposed to grants, just direct aid to fix that problem.
If there is an emergency and they have a problem to fix right away, that the window is open for that. And frankly, the window is open for that anytime, because if there's an emergency, then we need to respond to the emergency.
Through the chair. Item 4, emergency funding due to catastrophic events, I think covers that situation.
So and to finish up the discussion, what I'm trying to get the point across, if I'm a director in some agency, say like Linda or Oliver's Public Utilities Water District, if you're saying, if I have an idea to come forward and you're putting me, get it done in the month of whatever the month is, or if when I get it done, I can bring it to the agency and see if it fits their scheduling, or not their schedule, their mission. I'm in favor of the agency being open to accept that type of input all year, not just in the 1 month window.
Thank you, Director Matthews. It's exactly the kind of input. And in fact, I met with Brian Davis from Linda County Water District just last week, and we discussed some of the projects that they have coming forward. They're not ready to apply for anything in March, but we're working with them.
Through the chair, if I understand correctly, basically what we're doing is a one-time skipping of the March so that we can continue to work and revise the grant program and have it the way we want it moving forward. And should anything come up that needs to be funded, then we can consider funding that. And so that's my understanding. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make one more comment to you, Terry. Yuba County did such a great job on that Oliver drainage application that the 100% of it got funded. So the nearly $10 million we approved for the water agency, it doesn't even look like we're going to be spending that. So.
Right.
Shout out to
not on matching the grant, but we are in discussions with them, and there are some other expenses, and for cash flow, they will probably need that $10 million.
Yeah, but
yes,
likely it will come back. It'll just be a loan unless we go over budget on some of that stuff. So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, hopefully some of these other grants for other agencies will fare out that well as well. So okay, anybody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Here.
Is there any comments? Any public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Thank you.
Thank you. Manager's report. Willie.
Well, hello again. Thanks, Terry, for that agenda item, and thanks for the discussion. That was good. Well, I think Mandy gave you hard copies of my report, but what's not in my report is just a candid discussion about what has gone on with this series of storms we saw over the weekend. First, I'll start with our New Bullards Bar operations. Everything's going well. This storm system over the weekend was more of a Southern California and valley-wide, primarily wind event in Northern California. It was a great storm in the Sierras, but it wasn't what you're seeing in Southern California right now. We are seeing increased inflow, and units stayed online, and we generated through the storm, and things generally went well. New Bullards Bar is currently at 720,000 acre feet, and we've had 55% of our average inflow year to date. Our precipitation is about 80 to 90% of average to date, and our snowpack's around 70% average to date. Honestly, it's a little bit light, but it's an ideal year. But you probably saw in the news or some clip somewhere that Oroville began making spill releases late last week or over the weekend, and that's Oroville. It's a dam on the main stem of the Feather. Our dam's a little different. It's on the North Yuba, and to compare and contrast Oroville with New Bullards Bar, our storage has not even reached our spill gates yet. So it's close, and it will in the next couple days. But I just wanted to give you that explanation so you understand how we compare to Oroville and how we managed through this storm over the weekend. So all is going well as far as reservoir operations and our generation. We did have some impacts yesterday, late Sunday and into yesterday in our Marysville offices. We were out of power, and many of you know that because you live in the Marysville area. So folks worked from home yesterday. About midday, the power was restored, and we're back to normal. But that's just an explanation of this latest series of storms. It looks like it's going to be generally dry for the next few weeks. We'll have some light precipitation events, but nothing major. So we'll get some time to kind of get back to normal. And overall, we're shifting from, this is long-term, from the El Nino situation that we're currently in, and we'll quickly shift, or at least it's forecasted to quickly shift to La Nina conditions by the end of this calendar year. So that's where we're at operationally with Bullards and with this storm system. At the end of the month, we're done with our Colgate unit number 2 outage. All went well. That weld repair that we reported on in December that didn't go so well, that same repair was made on Colgate unit 2, and it all went well. So all units are back in service and generating. We did increase generation from our Narrows units the last couple days to account for the inflow into Englebright. It doesn't look like Englebright will spill. We'll be able to manage the inflows with the generators, so all is going well there. We did separate the mini hydro generator. There as we disconnected from PG&E's grid over the weekend in preparation for the storm. As I've discussed in the past, that little generator is connected to a smaller scale distribution system that oftentimes experiences outages during storms and wind events. So it very likely would have tripped offline anyway, so we separated it and just powered the dam with that generator over the weekend. Power system headquarters, all is going well there. Walls are going up on building A. The roof is next. Building B is getting the cinder block walls now. So things are progressing as planned at the new complex there in Oregon House. Let's see here. I mentioned the El Nino and La Nina. On to communications and community update. John James did an excellent job in an interview with KCRA3 talking about our partnership with Scripps and the weather balloon launches to research atmospheric river events. And that story was also picked up by several other outlets in Monterey and San Francisco. I was interviewed by the Water Education Foundation for an upcoming article about some of our partnerships to improve the watershed in both forest health and fish habitat. Blue Forest Conservation's completion of the first forest resilience bond got some press over the last couple of weeks, which included shout outs to us for helping to fund the pilot project. And we also got a nice plug from Yuba College in a release they put out about the increase in enrollment and the 60 students who signed up for the watershed management program, which we helped fund through a grant. We also had our latest news and review sponsored article published about the history of flooding in Yuba County. Our quarterly external newsletter went out last week to our distribution list of 1,642 people. And also last week, we participated in a crisis simulation with Yuba County OES, Yuba County Sheriff, and RD 784 to test our responsiveness and public information and outreach efforts in a realistic crisis scenario. We all worked really well together, found some things we can improve upon, but built some stronger relationships and really improved our coordination and collaboration. And we have to thank Maury Miller for all his help in developing the scenario. These crisis simulations are often difficult to come up with like a realistic scenario that we can all react to. And also, you got to get creative in what that scenario is. I kind of made a joke when we were done with this whole event last week because it was a little bit traumatic because and I think Maury did this because he's retiring in April, but he kind of went out with a bang. So what I talk about here in a second, this is a summary of a simulation. This is not real. But Maury's scenario had New Bullard's Bar completely failing at one point. And the emotions that kind of go through you in this intended to be realistic scenario are real. And it's a tough thing to think about. So I have to give Maury a little bit, a thank you, but a little bit of a hard time for the pretty intense scenario that he created. So thank you, Maury, for that. And at the same time that simulation was going on, we had a blood drive. We had about 20 people who gave blood, and I'm told we even had a few folks from the county participate. And we have to give a special thanks to Lake and Shatner of our staff for putting that blood drive together. And our upcoming sponsorships include the Chamber Gala on February 16th. And our next regular board meeting is on February 20th. And today you have a special workshop back at F Street and I believe an ABP after that. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Willie. Director's reports. Andy? Dawn?
I was just going to mention that the Calusa Farm Equipment Show starts today. Today, tomorrow, and Thursday. We are an ag county. It's pretty amazing to go out and see all the different innovations and equipment. It gives you a better perspective of what it takes to farm. Thanks.
The sponsorship for the gala is one, but we also have a sponsorship I think we did with the food bank because they have their fundraiser here coming up. Very exciting. And then we did a sponsorship, I want to say, for 530 Off-Road Recovery months ago. And they, via Say Love, were up at Bullard's Bar pulling out debris and cleaning up all around our area a couple weeks ago when we had our Say Love event. So our sponsorships are many, myriad, and varied in the community and doing great work. Perhaps we should increase them since we're decreasing our grants.
Why not?
And if we could, I would love to see us within the scope of the Water Agency Act, spend that money on stormwater drainage. Again, we have a flooding situation, emergency, roads closed in lots of areas of the county. And if we can do anything with those funds to alleviate that, since it's squarely within the Water Agency Act and would benefit the people. And so I think that is where we need to be looking to spend some of that money.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yes, the committee I'm on, we're still trying to add things to the auditor's report that justifies our large reserves. And at the same time, I'm very glad we had the discussion this morning about spending our reserves within the Agency Act. It's just the idea of the money sitting there with not finding a home for it is concerning.
Gary?
Yesterday, the NACWA board approved our strategic priorities for 2024. So if anyone's interested in seeing those, I'd be happy to pass them along. Also, Friday through Wednesday, I'll be back in DC for the county, representing the county at the NACO Ledge Conference. On Tuesday, I'm hoping to have a meeting with LaMalfa's staff and Kylie's staff and to talk about various county-related items, as well as with respect to the water agency, our update to the water control manuals. So I'm looking forward to that, and I want to thank Adam for getting me some information on that.
Thank you. Speaking of Congressman Kylie, he's going to be in Camptonville. I posted it on my Facebook. I don't remember what day it is now, like February 8th or something like that. So if anybody's interested, his staff will be there. I don't know if he will be there. However, I met him up there last summer and gave him a tour of Bullards and Colgate and the area. So that's all I have. We have another meeting at 10 at F Street. So I'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thanks.
Recording stopped.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.